Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Harvey Oberfeld. He's a retired TV reporter, but still very engaged in affairs. You can find his website, harveyoberfeld.ca, online. His blog, Keeping It Real. Harvey, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back.
Harvey, the wildfires hitting BC, the government has declared an emergency, yet for some reason the Mars water bomber is still parked. Why do you think they're not using this magnificent beast of a machine?
Well, apparently, from my understanding of how the water, because this has come up before, right? It's a very expensive airplane to operate, and of course it's run by private company, so of course there's a profit margin and all that. But I understand that it costs so much to get it up and to use it, and it's okay over a large area, large fire, but what they need more of is so where they can target little spots and things like that to get the periphery of the fire. That's my understanding, but this comes up every so often. I'm retired. I don't phone the officials and say, why aren't you using it? But that's what I've heard. And, but at some point, even for political reasons, you would think it would be a good idea to get it up there. And if they can work out the cost, then make use of it, because it's a BC, historic, contribution to fighting forest fires. And politically, it would be a good thing to get it up there also. At least look at as if you're doing something, that more than just sit here and inhale the smoke and hope for rain.
Well, the owner of the Mars has told me that they would put modern turboprop engines on it that would greatly increase its carrying capability and its speed if they had a long-term contract. But of course, the government says you don't have turboprops, so you don't get to fly. So it's the old chicken and the egg argument. Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, the way the climate's going, I think a long-term contract could be a very realistic solution, because, this isn't going to be a one-of. I mean, the weather has clearly changed, not only here, but in the United States and throughout Asia, even in Europe. I mean, we have, people can argue what's causing it and how can we stop it, and all that kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of the cause, the weather patterns have changed, and we are getting more storms, we're getting more hurricanes, we're getting more wildfires, we're getting more tumultuous weather over extended periods of time than we've ever seen before. And so if there was some long-term contract they could build into it, I mean, if it's an off year, it's almost like doing a retainer, that sort of thing. But I don't know the economics of equipping it or, requiring what new engines and all that. I mean, that's not my purview.
Harvey, I know after the Kelowna wildfire, they said that they would start building more fire breaks around communities. Do you know if they ever did that?
No, I don't know. You'd have to ask, someone who's still working.
But of course, it would be a good idea, and perhaps, I know people may think it's funny, even just having flocks of sheep around your town clearing out underbrush would make you safer from fire.
I think after the last big fires in the Okanagan, they did. Well, first of all, the fires themselves created fire breaks. It's one of the ironies. An old fire is a fire break for the next fire, and I think they did some work around the urban areas. But the problem is, this is a huge province, and when we see it on TV, with them fighting a fire, we show a small area. Well, imagine something that's covering like 48 square miles or something like that. How where do you put your resources of course, you put them closest to where their people are, right? I mean, I know how they do it, but it's looking at the terrain involved. It really is, there's so little that you can do in the overall context unless you worked at it all year. And then, of course, with the way things go, you work at one area for 3-4 months and then the fire starts on the other side. I mean, there's no way you're ever going to get out of it completely. But with climate change, the way it's happening, if these storms keep up and the fires keep up and the lightnings keep up in increasing manner, they might have to look at increasing the budget for, make it more of a regular thing to hire people so we actually have a firefighting force much larger than we have now.
Well, Premier Horgan himself said this could be the new normal. So if it is, perhaps they should have a minister of disasters ready to go after these things.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're spending public money, it's not sexy to say, people say, oh yeah, we want better fire protection around the whole province and all that. But that's not sexy stuff when it comes to winning votes in elections. You want to talk more about we're going to give money to seniors, we're going to give money to middle-class families, we're going to give money to the people that need it most in developing the province. I mean, that's where the politicians want to spend the money, not on prevention. I mean, anybody who's just doing something like preventing, ask the doctors what it's like to get funding for preventative programs. People always ask, where are the hospital beds? We want beds. I think it's the same thing with forest fires. I think they want to put money into it, but it's to put money into a force that's sitting there or working all year round, cutting back in some area. It really doesn't have a great political return on the investment when it comes to votes. That's the problem. And if you're going to do a province-wide campaign, you want to get maximum bang for your buck, and you do it by announcing major tax decreases or getting rid of MSP premiums and all that. That's lowering ICBC rates. That's the sexy stuff that people really want and has a much more widespread appeal to the voters.
Yes, there are no ribbons to cut to prevent forest fires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's lots of announcements to make about we're lowering your taxes, we're lowering your ICBC rates, even if you read the fine print and find out they're not doing it for a couple of years. It doesn't matter. You get to announce it several times. And we can laugh and we can sort of, those of us who follow the news, know what is going on, but it works. I mean, let's face it, it works. It's just like, the latest blog I wrote, Trudeau announcing with Jagmeet Singh a new national holiday. Well, that sounds great when you're working. We're going to get an extra day off. But it is a total disaster when it comes to, from the point of view of business. Without any consultation, the government just decided we're going to give people an extra day off. In BC, we already get 10. So now we're going to have 11 days off. And think of what that does to especially small and medium-sized employers. Think what it adds to their cost. If they have 10 employees, they're already paying out for 10 legal holidays a year the equivalent of 100 days' work, to just as gifts to the employees. Now the government's talking about adding another one, an 11th. And, it wins votes. People love it. I get to sleep in. I can assure you most of the people, they're talking about, let's say, Indigenous Day recognition and that. I dare say that most of the people who get that holiday wouldn't care less and wouldn't spend a minute that day of worrying or caring or, visiting Indigenous nations communities and that. They want to sleep in, they want to have lunch with friends, they want to go golfing, they want to go across the border shopping. And when the government does things like that, they know it's just, you could call it any kind of day. Nobody cares. Just give us an extra day off. It's that sexy stuff that wins votes, and that's what Trudeau is counting on. That's what Singh is counting on, because he's backing him on it. And nobody is paying any attention to what the implications are for business, especially small business and medium-sized business in adding another day's cost to their bottom, to their costs and hitting their bottom line.
Harvey, would it become the most Canadian of all holidays, Sorry Day?
Well, you could call it whatever you want. I personally, I personally, as I wrote in the blog, I don't believe this is the time to have another holiday. Our economy is under strain. We're facing great international pressures, local pressures, domestic pressures economically, and this is not the time to give another paid holiday. I mean, I loved them when I worked, but this is not the time to do it. And it just adds more cost to companies that are already paying increasing taxes, increasing costs for materials, increasing carbon taxes and things like that, increasing wage costs, right? And now the government's going to add another paid holiday, sleep in and do nothing, and we're going to pay you for an 11th day off. I mean, I think it's ludicrous, but they know it wins votes, and that's why they're doing it.
We'll have more with Harvey Oberfeld right after the break.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario, with grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program to test numerous targets located by recent groundwork is planned for early 2018. Please visit our website at rmroyalty.com.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the pink CYDVF, and on Frankfurt C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Harvey Oberfeld. Harvey, you wrote a very strong piece on your blog about Saudi Arabia and its treatment of Canada, for Canada complaining about its treatment of people when it comes to women's rights.
Right, and I was supposed to be on holidays for that couple of weeks, but, taking the time with visitors and enjoying. But when I heard what the Saudis were doing, I just had to sit down at that's why I have the blog. There's no revenue on it. I just like to rant about things I care about now and speak out and express my opinions now that I'm not reporting. I'm just blogging. And I thought, I've criticized Trudeau a lot, but I thought what Chrystia Freeland did when she spoke out about the detention of those peoples, including a blogger, by the way, in Saudi Arabia, was sentenced to be lashed. I mean, just what a barbaric society those people operate over there. And the media got caught up in all the excitement about, my God, what a progressive country. They're letting women drive. I mean, and, that's just a farce. The real facts of the matter is that Saudi Arabia is a barbaric society, and this new crown prince, who supposedly is a progressive, is actually, in my view, a spoiled brat, elected by no one to anything, but he has this tremendous power, and he took great umbrage that our foreign minister would dare to express concern about someone who's the fellow that's in prison in Saudi Arabia, who was arrested there. His wife and kids are in Montreal. I mean, there's a reason why Canada has an interest in this case. And then her brother, the brother is, the woman is arrested. The brother is in jail also, from the same family, for blogging. This is just, nothing wrong with Canada speaking up. But I'm sure even the Canadian government did not anticipate such a rampage by the Crown Prince. And I still say, you know what? It's time that Canada stands up for our principles and sends these banana republics, or these dictatorships. It's not even a banana republic. It's just a dictatorship. Send them the message that we won't be intimidated like so many other European countries are, and in this case even the Americans are, because you have oil, because you have influence. we'll stand up when you torture people, when you arrest people, when you treat people like crap, and just take away their basic human rights. We will speak up. And if you want to cut back your flights to Canada, so be it. I don't think there's too many of us that will be worrying about our next vacation plan since we can't fly directly to Saudi Arabia. And if you want to pull out your students from our universities, that's fine with me. Let them do it. I mean, it hurts their own students. And if you want to pull out your patients from Canadian hospitals, that's fine with me too. So, I think you have to stand up to these people. My only disappointment is that more Western nations who, looking at their bottom lines and setting aside, as they often do, their ethics, their morality, and their morals, did not back up Canada. But I think 10 years down the road, Canada will still be standing tall, and Saudi Arabia will, come off its perch, and I'm sure we'll be in their good books again, because it's quite interesting. They're breaking off relations with Canada, except they're still willing to sell us their oil. Well, you know what? I would even tell them, take your oil and shove it. We could get oil from somewhere else. It's only 10% of what we bring in. And if I were the Canadian government, I'd be working on alternative sources now. And I would tell the Saudis, if you're not going to treat us as equals, you can take your oil and you could stick it where.
It's a good argument for Energy East, isn't it?
Well, I've supported the Kinder Morgan pipeline. I've supported Enbridge. I think if we have the oil, we can use it here or we can export it. I am concerned about the environment. I've said so. I think we have to take great precautions on that front. State-of-the-art technology, and if a company violates the rules or violates the laws or violates the standards, hit them hard, hit them where it hurts. But I think, we've got to take advantage of the resources we have, and I have no objection to, Energy East, or I have no objection to Kinder Morgan. I have no objection even to Enbridge. Get our resources out, because it creates job, it brings in revenues, and I've always marveled at a lot of the people who do the loudest complaining against all these projects. They're the people who also complain most because they want increased services, they want increased programming, social services, assistance, housing help, and yet whenever there's any opportunity to get good funding to provide that kind of thing, they oppose it, and God forbid they would ever, some of them, take a job themselves doing any of the work. So I'm very I'm sort of very left-wing on many social issues. I really do believe in protecting the environment, but when it comes to this type of thing, we have resources that were given to us. We have them there to be used and to be shipped out, used by Canadians or shipped overseas, so we can get the bucks we need to improve the life of people here who aren't doing so well.
We'll have more with Harvey Oberfeld right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, Recycling Trade Publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Harvey Oberfeld. Harvey, the city of Victoria's mayor tore down the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald. Would Victoria even exist if Sir John A. Macdonald hadn't pushed the railway across Canada?
Well, it would exist, but it wouldn't be what it is today, and neither would BC. We'd probably be part of the States, actually. That's another, as you probably saw, that was another blog topic that I wrote about, and I took the angle, and I don't know why the media don't pursue this. What just weak, media we have nowadays. They're so busy chasing ambulances and fires and that, and they don't have the staff who could ask the questions I would ask if I was still working. And that's why I wrote the blog saying, well, if you're going to go back in history, how far back do you want to go? If you're going to take down Sir John A. Macdonald's statue, why don't you take down the native totem pole in Beacon Hill Park? Because it was done by an artist from a tribe, a band, that used to have slaves. Well, everybody's not looking at that part of the equation, are they? And if you're, if you come from a tribe that held slaves, and let's face it, go back far enough, and you'll find the history of our First Nations, and how they treated each other, and how they treated settlers, and how they massacred, and how they rampaged, and how they had slaves and tortured people and that sort of thing, their own fellow natives. How far back in history do we want to go? I recognize that there were wrongs done in history, not just against the First Nations. Look at the disgrace of how we treated the Japanese in the Second World War. Look what we did to Jewish refugees trying to flee the Nazis. We forced some of them to go back to their deaths. We've had a very bad, look what we did to the Chinese. We had a head tax on them, and their lives were worth almost nothing when they were working on building that railway. So, if you want to, you want to condemn Canadian history and historical figures, yes, but those were different times. We had different values in our society. We had different values around the world. And yes, they deserve to be condemned. They perhaps deserve to be acknowledged. But don't tear down the symbols of history, you can't wipe it out. It happened, and Sir John A. Macdonald, when you look at his overall contribution to being one of the founders of the nation, imagine pulling a nation together from coast to coast way back then, at that time, without the media that we have today available, the struggle that was that involved, in the political struggles and the negotiations, and the fathers of Confederation, they deserve the honor and they deserve the attention. Sure, they weren't perfect, but are any of our politicians today, even as progressive as we are any of our politicians today perfect? So, at what point do you stop looking back at the past from a point of view of ripping down the symbols of the past? I think you acknowledge it, you say there were problems, but let's look ahead, let's build for the future, let's improve things so make sure it never happens again. But what you have now is you have a few activists, you have native activists, you have anarchists from several communities who just, show up at anything and just, all they really want to do is tear down and destroy everything that, frankly, was white and European. That's basically what they're after. And if it was something done terribly by other societies, they don't mention it. They don't want to talk about it. It's not an issue. But I think it's time to stop that kind of thing and move forward and look to the future, but don't tear down the contributions that some of these people, with their flaws, also made towards the founding of Canada and the development of what is really one of the best countries in the world.
City TV in Vancouver and Rogers City stations across Canada are planning to bring back their 6 o'clock newscast September 3rd. Only they won't have anchors. My inside sources say the reporters will throw from each other, as we say in the business. So I'm here at this fire and we hear there's another disturbance downtown. What's happening, Hank? That's going to be their format. Is that the wave of the future, getting rid of anchor people?
You know what? I couldn't care less as long as they bring back more news programs. Let them do it and design it and throw to each other and all that. The role of the anchor is often been, except if there's a major disaster, you might look to somebody like Walter Cronkite, or even when Tony Parsons was working. They had great gravitas, great credibility. I think what you see on there today, I don't think most of us would be trusting them if we had a major earthquake. We wouldn't really rush over to see what they're telling us. It's the stories. We need more news coverage of important events, not just fires, not just ambulance chasing, not just press conferences, and not just charity runs. And we need people doing in-depth looking at what's going on in society, what's going on in Victoria, what's going on at city halls. That's the kind of stuff we need. And if they do that, I don't care how they get from one story to the other. It's just better, because the worst thing you can have for these politicians is nobody looking and nobody reporting and nobody asking the tough questions. When I watch even what we have now, so few tough questions, it just makes me just sometimes think, oh, I shouldn't have retired. But I'm happy I retired. But I think we need much more aggressive media to go after these people, and to have more, if there's going to be more news programs, and they cover the topics that are important and not the fluff that isn't important to anybody, I'm all for it, no matter how they do it.
Yeah, I miss the days of Brian Mulrooney barking at reporters, "How dare you ask that question?"
Oh, yeah. Or,
and the reporter saying, "I dare, sir,
or
answer
as Mulrooney said, "Oh, there, Harvey's with us." Oh. Or of course, the famous Lucien Bouchard, "Are you a heckler or a journalist?" And but I miss that kind of thrust from reporters. I think I see politicians just getting away provincially and municipally with just about everything, and there's nobody that challenges them. It's like a free pass. Very few that challenge them, and we need more of that. And that the problem is with the existing setup, the people they've hired aren't capable of doing it. They don't know enough about politics. They don't know enough about the historical background, politically or even historically. So they hire people that can cover fluff and stuff that, forest fires and, ambulance chasing and police shootings. And, but when it comes to tough stuff, they give the politicians a free pass. And, with the billions the politicians spend, they should not be getting a free pass.
Harvey, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
My guest has been Harvey Oberfeld. His blog, Keeping It Real, can be found online at harveyoberfeld.ca. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.